Night has a way of swallowing sound, especially in parts of the city where people rarely go. Old, forgotten streets where the wind seems to whisper stories no one wants to hear. The streetlights flicker, the asphalt looks damp even when it hasn't rained, and the silence feels alive. That night was just like that, ordinary at first, but destined to become the beginning of one of the strangest, most unexplainable events in one woman's life. Her name was Kamola, 32 years old. She was heading home after a friend's birthday party. It had gotten late, much later than she expected. The streets were empty. Every few meters, a streetlight flickered as if struggling to stay awake. She pulled out her phone to call a taxi, but the signal dropped. No data, no service, nothing. As if the network itself had disappeared. Then, she saw it. A taxi. An old yellow one. Its headlights dim, its roof light flickering, moving slowly toward her, almost gliding. Something about it felt wrong, but she was alone. It was cold, and she needed to get home. The taxi stopped beside her. Through the window, she could barely make out the driver's face. His head was tilted slightly forward, unmoving. The inside of the car was dark, much darker than it should have been. "Are you free?" Kamola asked. The driver slowly turned his head toward her. Only his eyes were visible, faintly illuminated, staring through her rather than at her. "Yes, get in," he said. His voice was low. Too low, like someone speaking from another room or another world. Kamola hesitated but climbed in. The door closed with a hollow thud, like something sealing shut behind her. The taxi began moving at once, silently, as if it had been waiting for her all night. Inside, the air felt colder than outside. The driver didn't speak, didn't adjust the mirror, didn't even blink. Kamola tried to break the silence. "Long shift tonight?" No answer. She glanced at his hands on the steering wheel. They looked normal at first, until she noticed the shadow. His hand was lit by the dashboard, but the shadow it cast fell the wrong way. Away from the light, but also away from logic, like the shadow wasn't connected to his body at all. Her stomach tightened. The driver suddenly turned down a narrow, unused road. The city lights disappeared behind them. The trees thickened, forming a dark tunnel ahead. She checked her phone again. No signal, nothing. As if the network itself had disappeared. "Excuse me, my house is the other way," she said nervously. The driver slowly tilted his head and answered, "I'm taking you where you need to go." Not where she wanted to go, where she needed to go. The car continued deeper into the wooded road. The temperature inside dropped. Kamola's breath began to fog up. Then, without warning, the taxi stopped. The driver opened his door and stepped outside. Kamola panicked. "Wait, where are we?" No answer. She hurriedly got out and froze. The driver was gone. He had stepped out just 1 or 2 seconds earlier, but now the road was empty, No figure, no footsteps, not even disturbed dust. Terrified, she ran to the taxi. The driver's seat was empty. The interior looked untouched, as if no one had ever sat there. No smell, no belongings, no signs of a human presence. Completely alone on a deserted road, she ran until she found help. A police car eventually stopped for her. She told them everything, every detail from the moment she entered the taxi. The officers took her back to the scene. They inspected everything carefully. Their flashlights swept across the ground. No footprints, no tire tracks, not even disturbed dust. They checked all the surveillance cameras in the area. And that's when the truth hit harder than the fear. On the footage, Kamola stood alone on the street, talking to no one, entering nothing. There was no taxi, no driver, no vehicle recorded at all. The officer looked at her and said quietly, "Ma'am, no taxi operates in that area. Not at night. Not in the last 10 years. There was a crash here long ago. The driver was never found." Her blood ran cold. It made no sense. She remembered the car vividly. The driver's eyes, his voice, the road, the cold, the terror. As they prepared to leave, one of the officers approached her holding something. "Is this yours?" he asked. In his hand was a small yellow slip, an old taxi receipt. The ink faded, the paper worn. On it was the trip distance, the date, the time. But the driver's name section contained only one word: returned. That night she barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the driver's eyes staring back at her. Eyes that didn't belong to the living. Days later, she began searching online. She found an article buried deep on an old forum. It described the taxi accident on that same road. The driver's body was never recovered. Witnesses claim that on foggy nights, people saw an old taxi wandering the roads looking for passengers it could never deliver home. Maybe he was trying to finish his last ride. Maybe he was simply lost between worlds. And maybe, that night, he chose her. From that day on, Kamola refused to take taxis. She avoided dark streets. Yet still, walking home at night, she sometimes felt watched. In her peripheral vision, she would see eyes in a rearview mirror that wasn't there. Then one evening, she passed an old phone booth. Something yellow stuck out near the base. She bent down and picked it up. Another taxi receipt. Brand new, as if printed that very moment. The destination read, "Home." And beneath it, "Returned." Kamola froze. The street behind her was empty. But from the end of the block, slow, heavy footsteps began approaching. Measured. Deliberate. As if someone who had been gone for a long time was finally coming back. And the night fell silent once again. The taxi driver had returned. And maybe, just maybe, he was still looking for his passenger.